Hey everyone, welcome to another Angry Artist podcast. I believe I've talked about this matter before, but if I haven't, then perhaps it's for the best. And even if I had, I want to really talk about it in recent times and my newfound understanding of this matter. And of course, as the title would say, it's the idea of subject matter in art. So, subject matter is a very complicated issue, even if subconsciously you can say, I just want to draw whatever I want and whatever works for you. So, what makes it a complicated issue? It's mostly when you have to think about business-wise. And of course, I have to go into this territory because everyone needs to pay the bills, and one of the dreams of many artists is to be able to make a living off of doing this type of stuff. Subject matter is a tricky issue when you think about market saturation and what works for your style. I'm going to talk about a bit of both. In fact, they're pretty correlated with each other. So, as you can probably suspect, the internet has opened up a lot of exposure to a ton of artists. The market saturation used to be within locally and at most nationally, but now, because of the internet, you can transfer your pictures and artwork to your clients readily. So you're actually competing against the entire world. Now, it seems a little bit daunting, right? But there are some benefits to this that's kind of not related to the current topic at hand. One of which is you can see and get inspired by a lot of different artists, meaning the average skill level of artists nowadays are so much higher than what it used to be, but I'm gonna leave that for another time. So it might be a little bit daunting to find that one thing that you might offer that a ton of people around the world don't. As per usual, when it comes to art, you have to really balance between the business side of things and what you personally really like to do. I'm going to give you an example. Now, I do not have the stats for any of this, but I'm sure you might have noticed that if you go on DeviantArt, ArtStation, Tumblr, one of the most common subjects in art is drawing pretty girls. Now, of course, why people like that type of subject matter is really for another time, and sometimes it's probably worth not mentioning as well, as you can imagine. But anyways, let's go to the business side of things. If you are trying to draw girls in today's environment, it might be a bit harder to stand out. Perhaps you could get some of that market share of what the biggest pinup girl artists would get, but it's really hard to follow up with someone who is already out there. So what do? Do you just say, well, I don't want to draw females ever again? Probably not, right? But let me give you an alternative, and it's the second side of what I mentioned earlier. It's the idea of style. So, of course, similar to everything else, the internet has exposed people with a ton of different styles, and the competition is more fierce than ever. However, mixing your style with a subject matter might make something more original. So let's say you have a really unique style, but you use it to draw girls and nobody has ever done it before. Now you've created something new, and something that is more refreshing and unique. Now, of course, art is a lot more complicated than that. There are a lot of nuances. So I'm putting it in very general terms. So for instance, not that Ashley Wood's work is very safe for work, but you might notice that he puts girls in situations that other people don't. Let's just put it that way. And his style kind of complements that, which is why he's one of the bigger artists when it comes to commercial art. So everyone has their own take on a certain subject matter, and then mix it with style, you have plenty of room to create something more original. So it gets into the topic of, okay, it sounds really easy, right? Alex has already put down the formula on how to create original style. But again, the biggest and most complicated issue about this is the nuance of your subject matter. I believe every high-level professional artist would have really mastered that little niche that they've really wanted. You look at a Mark Ryden, for instance. Mark Ryden has really creepy, childlike dolls for his subject matter. And again, that goes into just having girls as a subject matter. But the way he renders, the way he puts them in compositions, that's when it becomes super niche and that becomes very original. I've seen many artists who really refine what their subject matter is long after their technical side of doing art has been already mastered, or at least hit a point where it's really hard to improve from. They're constantly trying to find that subject matter that works for their style and what they really like to do, as well as, of course, something that other people like to see. I liken it to sort of like acting. If you notice that Heath Ledger's Joker is so different, yet it's still the Joker. That's really what you want to achieve when it comes to art. We can assume that every subject matter has been done to death by now because we've been exposed to so much work that nothing really is truly original from what you can see of people all over the world. But you add a little bit of the twist to it, and suddenly your work stands out. Now, of course, don't do it forcibly. Make sure you truly believe in what you do, and I always feel honesty will come out when it comes to art. However, keep this in mind when you're trying to do this as a profession, and note when you are doing something that might be a little bit hard to market, something that might be too overdone. Of course, this is something that I'm constantly refining as well, so don't take it as if I've solved the issue either. It's just something I've noticed from people who are much higher level when it comes to professional work than I am. Your goal is when people see your work, they would immediately know it's from you. That's when you know you've made it. Anyways, thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.